Hi. Hello, Ignite cohort number one. And anybody else watching this, specifically Dr. Perry, uh, thank you so much for this course and all that we're learning in it. This video presentation is on doing self-care well, and with a subtitle of creating rhythms of rest. And so what's in this curriculum is the educational goals of developing rhythms in our lives as ministry leaders, where we will be protected and poured into to be able to learn to do self-care well for the purpose of leading well and succeeding in ministry. So the following lessons are included in the 6-week course. Week 1, understanding the suffering. Week 2, understanding the storm. Week 3, understanding my condition. Week 4, understanding the fruit of rest. And week 5, understanding the freedom of priority. And week 6, understanding the power of connection. Most of the content of this curriculum comes from the book Rest in the Storm, but I've also just gleaned from much of the reading that has been assigned, and also other books to go along with it that are listed in the reference of the report. Now, going into the curriculum, I have a commentary stressing the importance of self-care, trying to identify for the person that would teach this some key points to pass along throughout the 6 lessons, and that is that doing self-care well is not a matter of an additional or optional way of leading, but rather it is essential. And to rest is not a reward or a luxury, but rather a tool, a vital part of leading. We are more ourselves when we are rested and healthy. Just like when my boys resist sleeping at night or during their naps, and the perfect storm is when they do so and refuse to eat as well. So they're hangry and tired and not at all who they can be and who we want to connect with and who are able to connect with us. They're not able to enjoy the day or even the next day. There's a trickle effect. Thankfully, as soon as we get food into them and get a little rest in them, it's like a happy pill. They wake up and they are exactly who they're able to be and able to create, enjoy, and love life. And likewise, we as ministry leaders need to understand that God wants to pour into us as who we really are, and not our tired, fatigued, old self ways. He once told Elijah to just sleep, get some food, sleep, get some food, and after he got the rest and the food that he needed, God was able to confide in him about his plans and how many people were, in fact, still on board with the mission that Elijah felt tired and fatigued from. So, getting into the content, 6 weeks. Week number 1, understanding the suffering. This is a lesson about teaching the student, the ministry leader, how to assess their actual condition and to understand just how painful and detrimental their condition may be if they aren't doing self-care well. So there's some assessment tools and some questions and discussions to have that will lead the student to understand their actual condition and their need to address it. The rhythm that will be applied here or learned is as simple as a rhythm of personal prayer, group prayer, and implementing some elements of prayer that really touch on the soul's condition and the rest that we need. I've also added some charts for further assessment and understanding the concepts being put out there. In week 2, we'll be understanding the storm. So week 1 is understanding oneself and one's actual condition, and to be honest about it. Week 2 is understanding the storm and the reasons and the nature of the storms that we have in our lives, and to address them as what they are. And so some of the exercises we have on that lesson is to just write some things out and to interact in discussion and to visualize some charts to accessing the different learning styles that we learned about. One exercise, for example, is just writing a list of what ways God has protected us. or ways we believe Him to protect us and care for us. And to see that and imagine that in the midst of the tension or conflict or fatigue that we might have, or perhaps we're not aware of our tiredness, but we still need to go through that exercise. And there's a whole list of exercises and actions to help with that learning piece. The application here is to start a new rhythm of faith, to understand that faith, ultimately trusting in what God is doing and not the circumstances, and not just simply reacting to the circumstances around us, but understanding that God is in control and that God is for me. To have a rhythm of checking in with oneself about that, checking in our relationship with God, not just for help, but for proclamation of the truth that He is in control and He is for us, for me, for you. Week 3, understanding my condition. Part of the educational objectives here, and there's objectives listed and printed out in each lesson, is to educate the ministry leader about the role of rest and the daily mission and the routine and rhythms of ministry. That rest is a part of that. So understanding my condition is to say, I understand that I am a person with a lot of vision and passion, but it's all within a body that does tire and fatigue, and there is a correlation between body and spirit. Paul tells us to get rid of everything that contaminates body and spirit. When I'm healthier, when I am at my healthiest, I think better and I am more myself. Learning goals here include the concept of sacred space, concept of savoring peace lifelines, and the concept of being still. The application is to develop a new rhythm of soul care, to understand that our time of prayer, our time with the Lord, our time of study, we need to be deliberate and actually schedule out time where we really check in with the condition of our soul and let God speak into that. Week 4, understanding the fruit of rest, understanding that there is a outcome, a productive outcome that is actually more productive than working and serving tired. And so some learning goals include having a thinking shift, a belief shift, and a priority shift. The application here is developing a new rhythm of fruitful leadership, a new rhythm where we weekly examine our values and our motives, weekly examining values and motives, and biannually, if not more often, assessing our gifting and leadership style. Week 5, understanding the power of teams. Understanding the power of teams. And this comes from the teaching and leading well principles regarding developing a team, affirming the team, and having unity and mutual affirming values, mutual values. When we do so, we don't have to keep on running into the tension of convincing and persuading, but rather having a sense of team, a partnership, people with whom we could high five more often than not for the many different things that are included in the vision and mission of ministry. The application is developing a new rhythm of caring for teams. So throughout the content of this session, there is a learning of how to develop a team, how to create the importance of creating one's own team rather than joining somebody else's or trying to walk in the steps of a previous leader's team and doing what they did. But when we care for our team and pour into them and communicate vision and clarify our voice with them, we will have a team that we really want to work with, one that is cared for and cares for us right back. Week number 6 is understanding the power of connection. And this week we are learning about the power and the need for mentorship, the need to develop relationships where one person or perhaps a few people that will pour into us, that are over us in the Lord, that are wiser than us, who have been there in the same situations that we find ourselves in, who will speak into our situations and our lives from an objective and very caring, authentic place. Having a rhythm of mentorship will include meeting no less than once a quarter, and initially once a month, if not once a week, with a mentor, and also to meet with a prayer group no less than once a quarter, if not weekly or monthly, a group that genuinely cares and will come to bat for you and I, and the calling that God has assigned us. And when we're able to do that, we'll find ourselves in a rhythm, which is to say a habit of doing self-care well. And when we're able to care for ourselves well, we're able to lead well. And I believe the outcome of that is a church or a ministry that grows to become a light that the world can see, be drawn to, and meet Jesus in.